托马斯·德曼的这个展览是从1994年一直到现在，横跨30年的跨度，精选了他30年创作历程不同阶段的重要的作品，也代表他对这个世界的观察。
The title, The Stutter of History, I came up with this phrase as a way of thinking about Thomas's work in relationship between photography and the world in his work. And because so much of Thomas's work deals with this question of history and is a way of thinking about how images have been used to represent history and to tell stories about history, I thought it was a very poetic way of thinking about this larger body of work by him in his career, to call it the stutter of history. Images operate as they analyze the relationship that we have collectively to history, which is mediated in our culture by images. History is written both through words, but also through images. And images, photography, as we know, is not neutral. It is not objective, but it frames the world in a particular way from a particular perspective. So, in a sense, he has been there. He has been to these sites because he's experienced the image representation through the telling of stories in the media or in history books. And that is another way of experiencing what we think of as these sites.
I think photography is also great because everybody knows it. Everybody knows how it's done. So then I started making the objects for the camera rather than making objects and photograph them. And that kind of trajectory kind of created so many other possibilities for me that it became a photographic practice, I have to say now. And with paper, everybody knows it. Everybody has a piece of paper in his hand once a day, at least. You just have experience with paper. I'm trying to kind of come halfway to you as a viewer with the paper, and that's on a very subtle level. I'm trying to look at the medium from all sides, like also like moving images and like photographing other people's models. That now I think it is about photography, but it's hopefully much more than that. It's also about exhibition architecture, it's about status of the image in a globalized world. It's about what we know about our reality, how construction of identity for all of us, how we communicate through images, and how our memory becomes a model because it kind of reduces, whenever you think of something, it reduces the richness and complexity of the world to a few markers, and I'm trying to build those. It's also visualizing an idea rather than using a camera.
Thomas and I are exactly the same age. We were born the same year, 1964. The world that we grew up in, the post-war consumer culture that we experienced as children, seemed very fast at the time. It was quite slow in comparison. It's now accelerated to the point, this image culture, beyond what we knew as children. But it's nonetheless, his works have only gone to the internet for the film works. He's still looking at still images of the world that have been published places. What I would say about Thomas's work, and why I feel it's so relevant still today, is that even though the world around us in images is speeding forward and forward, faster and faster, his work tends to slow us down. It slows our viewing down. When you look at these pictures, first they look like something from the world themselves. When you approach them, you see they're made out of paper. You see the gap between the real world, a real photograph of that world, and his sculptural recreation of it.
透过这个展览，我们可以去看到摄影其实它已经脱离了我们对原来摄影表现的一个传统的想法。托马斯·德曼他非常着重影像背后的真实性，但是这个真实性常常又是让人怀疑的。他透过这个虚构的影像去回应真实跟虚拟之间的一个辩证。那这个展览另外一个很特别的地方，就是在展场的配置上面，它有一部分的作品发展成了像壁纸一样的贴在墙壁上，所以透过它的作品跟空间， 我们可以感受到作品背后一个更深层的对话的一个关系。